Cigar Studio in Boston, Massachusetts, and the Gurkha Cigar Studio in beautiful British Columbia. Welcome to the Smokin Tabacco Show with your hosts, Matt Tobacco and Mitchell Santaga.
And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the Smokin Tabacco Show. My name is Matt Tobacco from SmokinTabacco.com, and I am once again broadcasting live from the JC Newman Cigar Studios in Boston, Massachusetts. I am joined once again by my very good friend, Mr. Mitchell Santaga, also of SmokinTabacco.com, who is in the Gurkha Cigar Studios in British Columbia. How are you?
Doing great. It is a beautiful day here in British Columbia. I am in
The
outside. It's a
sun's
balmy, 22 degrees Celsius. I don't know, was that like 75?
I don't know the conversion.
Yeah,
75 is not bad, so I know that.
Around there. It's nice and warm. It's nice and warm. It might cool off through the evening, but right now, light breeze and beautiful sunshine.
Yeah, spring is finally here, which is good. We're getting close to PCA-ish. It's almost that pregame time. I feel like I just have to say this because, Mitchell, we talked about this before the show, and I feel like I've talked to several people about this all week. And apparently, some people are saying that this conversation started off of a post that was made on Facebook, which I don't, I didn't know about. I don't really care about. Everything I said, I had been saying since like last year, so I was just going off my own volition. But apparently, the rumors have been kicked up once again from the sand. The sand below the water has been kicked up again on these rumors about STG acquiring Davidoff. Now, no official word has been made on that, so it's not like don't get excited. But just the rumors of it are, and I feel like this keeps coming up, and I've had people say things to me who were in the know, not just random people. I've heard it from manufacturers. I've heard it from retailers. I've heard it from people. Now, this is obviously not a new rumor, but it's been more frequent, I would say. I don't know. Mitch, I don't know if you would agree with that, but it just seems like it's been more frequent lately. It just keeps coming back up. I don't know. It's anybody's game. I called it and said, for the record, once again, I'm doing this on the show, so that way I can go back to it. I can either be right or I can look like an idiot, but I think it's a pretty safe bet. And I said, if they do sell, no timeline. I'm not saying when, I'm not saying this year, just saying in general. If it happens, I predict STG is the one who buys Davidoff if Davidoff's looking to sell. That's all I said. And I said that months ago, and I'm saying it again because I just want it on the record. So that's it. I just want to put it on the record again. Just want to say it. And that has nothing to do with anybody posting on Facebook this week. To go back I don't know, 6-7 months episodes or whatever it was. I think it was like the end of last year. I'm pretty sure that's when it was. I said it on Spare Notes. I had a whole conversation about it.
Yeah, we said on Spare Notes, I think, when we were talking about acquisitions and just possible companies that would be up next. Who knows if that's actually the case or not.
Yeah, I don't know. And like I said, it might not even happen. But I'm just making the prediction. And I just figured I would address it because everyone keeps talking about it. I don't know. I keep hearing about it. Our friends in the media keep hearing about it. So I don't know. Something's going on. Although I hear from other sources that something might be coming, but it's not an acquisition. I don't know. Who knows? Who knows what's going on?
Who knows until the official press releases are out?
All I know is, apparently, STG, has a lot of money to spend.
Well,
and
they've come out multiple times saying they are planning to acquire multiple brands. So, if anything, they're going to acquire someone eventually. And that's all we know for sure. And us as media, we like to maybe look at the industry under a microscope that not everyone else necessarily takes the time to do.
Because they don't have the time.
These are some of the things we like to talk about. But, I'm sure. And again, who knows the timeline? Who knows?
That's that's the gossip of the week. It's the gossip.
Yeah,
of the week.
it could be a while if anything even happens.
Who knows? Anyway,
what did you just cut?
So, well, first of all, let me bring in our guest here. We have a guest with us tonight. You may or may not have heard of him. Out of Montana, we have with us Brandon Marsh of Big Sky Cigars. Brandon, welcome to the Smokin Tabacco Show.
Hey, Matt. Thanks for having me on tonight, guys, and look forward to a great night.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Thank you
thanks
for
for joining
being
us.
here. Thank you for joining us. I am going to light up a Big Sky cigar, but Brandon, what are you smoking since you are our guest? I'll let you go first.
I'm smoking one of our cigars. It's called the Cryptid. So put the camera there.
Oh, what happened here?
It's
Sorry.
Can you see it?
I lost you off screen. 1 second. I don't know what happened here. I think I had to do with. Nope. Sorry. Why can I not get this? See, it's always worse when you're. There he is. There you are. Sorry.
Boom.
I don't know what happened there. I lost the feed off the screen. Sorry. What were you? One more time. What were you showing us?
Oh, it's a
There we go.
Cryptid cigar.
Okay.
I always got to get like inverted backwards in a camera, but it's a cigar that we put out at PCA last year. It's got a San Andreas wrapper, Nicaraguan binder, and filler. It's just an amazing smoke. I've had a lot of great feedback on it, and yeah, it's a cigar that I really love.
I smoked that cigar and it was pretty good. I did enjoy that. I liked the size on it. I liked the thicker ring gauge and the shorter length. I thought that was nice. More like a fat Robusto. I really liked that. I enjoyed that. I liked the construction on it. It was, it burned well. It smoked well. Flavor was good. Really interesting. The band was very eye-catching for me. That's what's really caught my attention. I saw the band. Because I remember the box. I looked at the box. I'm like, wow, this is really cool. It's kind of like, like what's the word? It's real classy. It's kind of just sharp. It's like simple black box, the logo. I'm like, that's kind of cool. This looks really nice. Like I like the presentation here. And then I took it out and I flipped over and I saw the band. And I was like, wow, what is that? That is crazy. But very eye catching. And the cigar was good too, so it all worked out.
I'm sure we'll hear the story about how that band came around.
Yeah. We'll have to circle back to that though. We'll dive into all of that in a second. But Mitchell, what are you smoking tonight?
Unfortunately, I couldn't get my hands on a Big Sky, but I did decide to light up tonight the Tatuaje Havana 6 Artista. It's a nice,
Wow, look
burning
at
nice,
you.
tasting nice.
Look at you smoking Tatuaje. That's a good cigar. I am going to be smoking the Big Sky, the Bitter Root. We'll be smoking that tonight.
I think
And
that's the Connecticut.
I'm sorry?
I think that's a Connecticut shade, yeah?
It's a little dark for a Connecticut shade. Brandon,
Maybe
what is this?
Habano?
What is this blend? A Habano?
It's a Ecuadorian Habano wrapper, and then Nicaraguan binder and filler.
Nice. Our cigars are once again brought to you by our friends at 2guyscigars.com. That's right. If you head over to the number 2, guyscigars.com, you can find an amazing selection. One of the most amazing selections in this industry, I should say, of cigars and cigar accessories. And that's only at the number 2, guyscigars.com. And once again, we are cutting and lighting our cigars with Cigar Blondie accessories. And I am using them right here. Mitchell still doesn't have his set because he lives in Canada and it's a pain in the ass. Soon to be, though. The awesome double guillotine cutter, as well as the sleek flat blade flame, available in 3 finishes: chrome, white, and black. Only available at cigarblondie.com. And I think this lighter is running out of gas because I have a small flame and it's taking forever to light. And I don't have any fuel near me, so I'm going to have to
call
switch
in
over.
reinforcements.
I have to, or we're going to be waiting here all night, which is weird because normally they just won't light, but that one was lighting, but the flame was just so small. There we go. There is the smoke. There we go. Okay. And we're good to go.
So I was gonna say you can get some of our cigars on 2guys.com. So they carry our
Live
Mad
from the
Minnow
JC
stick.
Newman Cigar Studio in Boston,
Sorry,
Massachusetts.
I clicked the wrong thing. You are on 2guyscigars.com.
I think they got
Correct.
the Mad Minnow there.
Correct. Yep.
Well, head over to 2guyscigars.com today and you can buy some Big Sky cigars and try them for yourself. Give Barry, give Barry Stein another order to fulfill and ship out to you. Keep him even more busy than he already is. Anything we can do, and you know what? If that advertisement on the show is not just like, because, we have a great relationship with those guys and, and we love them and they help us, we help them, obviously getting more sales, advertising, you all know how it goes. For me, well, for Dave, so Dave was on with Jeff Borschwitz from Corona Cigar about a month ago, and he made a comment that it was great, and every dollar spent on the advertisement was well worth it because I got to read that ad with Jeff on the show in front of Dave. For me, the more people who actually hear that advertisement and go to twoguyscigars.com and place an order, for me, I get the satisfaction of knowing that it's even more orders that Barry Stein has to process and get shipped out because, he's already a busy guy. But if I can add to that workload, then to me, my job has been completed. So that's how I feel about that ad. I just wanted to throw that out there for the record. But Brandon, you are the guest tonight, so it's all about you. Enough about everybody else. Tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you find your way into the cigar industry? When did you start smoking cigars? How do you get to that point when you're like, hey, I want to have my own brand? Kind of what's your background?
So when I was young, I grew up in Montana on a cattle ranch in northeastern Montana. And I'd be riding around with my grandpa, and he'd always be smoking cigars, and we'd be checking cows and fixing fence. And so he'd share cigars. And so that was my first introduction to cigars. And then I always smoked cigars with my friends growing up. And then me and my business partner, Jess, we'd be cutting up or just having drinks and smoke cigars together. And we were working on a construction crew together in North Dakota. And we'd always throw business ideas back and forth with each other. And we throw an idea out, and then we go to Google, and it was already been done. So we're like, oh, this sucks. Like we put all this, like we brainstormed through an 18-pack of beer, and we thought we had this great idea. And the next thing we know, we check on our phones, and no, somebody's already done it. So
you're like, damn,
oh,
what a waste of time. all that energy and excitement, right down.
Hopefully the beer was good.
Yeah. No, it's always good. But so it was just like, we'd always throw ideas back and we just get crushed by Google. And I was like, all right, what are we going to do? Because we always wanted to start a business. And one day he was fishing and he texted me, he's, hey, man, I got an idea. I was like, all right, cool. Let me know. I was like, I'm going to call you when I get back into service. And so he calls me. He's like, hey, why don't we start a Montana cigar company? Nobody's doing it yet. And little do we know, there was 2 other cigar companies in the state. We just hadn't heard of them yet.
Okay.
And so we're just like, okay, well, maybe we can do it different. Maybe we can do it better. And so we came up with a business plan of Big Sky 6 years ago, because we're going into year 6 or 7 years ago, and created a business plan. Just went down to Little Havana. He met with Antillian, I believe that's who he met with. And they got us connected with Tobacco Costa down in Esteli. Mm-hmm. And so we went down to Tobacco Costa and we rolled our first cigar, the Yellowstone, which is our Connecticut.
Okay.
And just from there, it's just been building new cigars. Our second cigar was with Tobacco Costa. Then we went back down to Esteli again, and we were sitting in Central Park eating a Cuban sandwich, and we hear this kind of gravelly voice, just like, what are you guys doing down here? And it was Carlos Sanchez, and he owns Tacasa. And he's like, hey, you should come by my factory. I really want to show you guys my cigars. And so we went down there, really loved what he was doing. He rolled our next stick. It's called the Madison. And from there, we've just been working with Carlos ever since. And he reblended our Bighorn cigar. And so Carlos rolls our Bighorn, Madison, Bitterroot, Mad Minnow, Professor, and this Cryptid.
This Bitterroot's really good right off the bat. Floral on the foot. It's really nice. I'm really enjoying this so far. No, I mean that's great, and I hadn't really been familiar with the brand myself. I know that you had reached out to me, and we started to chat a little bit, and
Yeah.
then we started looking into the brand a little bit more, and I'm like, oh wow, I mean, this guy's really got it going on. And I know you said you're a PCA, which is always a great place to be, obviously.
Yeah.
Huge supporters of PCA here, so of course we'll say that. But no, it is. I mean, are you going to the trade show this year?
We are.
All right, that's good.
We're hanging with the cool kids on the back of the bus.
Yeah, sometimes that's the best place to be. Sometimes you gotta get away from the hustle and the bustle, and you gotta do your own thing. Um, Sometimes that's where the best business happens. But no, I mean that's great. I mean, so far, I mean, so you have how many blends total do you have?
7.
7. Wow. So you have 7 blends. That's pretty good.
And we're coming out with our 8th at PCA.
Very nice. Very nice. Now I know you talked a lot about. So you grew up in Montana.
Correct.
And you spent a lot of time with your grandfather. He was smoking cigars. So basically, you've been around cigars your entire life, almost, kind of in a way. Maybe not smoking them, but at least they were around. You kind of always had that influence. I guess I would say, right? That influence, which is great. And I've always wanted to go up there myself. I've always wanted to travel to more of the the more open parts of the country, right? The more farmland areas.
Wild parts.
Well, not to say the wild parts, but there's definitely more wildlife. But like Montana, and obviously everyone's talking about the show Yellowstone right now, which I haven't seen, but it's like all the rage.
Yeah.
And see places like that. And it's interesting. You talk about kind of going into it. You wanted to be the first Montana-based brand, although you found out like, hey, like we're not. There's already some brands here, but I like how you said, hey, well, how can we do it differently? And go your own way, still be that. I mean, look, there's still not a lot of brands out of Montana. I mean, so I mean, if there's only 3, right? Maybe with you guys now. I mean, hey, that's still something to be proud of. We see cigar brands coming out of all sorts of states now. Montana is definitely not a top one. So that's good. And if you can be the best of the Montana brands, then I would say that's something pretty good too. And it seems like you guys are off to a great start. So you're coming out with another blend for PCA. Sorry. I just dropped ash all over the table. It's okay. I'll clean it up later.
Happens.
It happens. Being a cigar smoker, you're bound to make a mess. So at this point in the game, you have sorry, I lost my train of thought. You have something coming out of PCA. Beyond that, what other ways have you kind of outside of like the trade shows and whatnot, right? How have you been? Are you traveling around? Are you doing events? How have you been really trying to grow this brand? Being based out of Montana, a lot of brands, obviously there's brands everywhere, but a lot of times you see brands get started in more populated areas, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
But being in Montana, I'm not very familiar with Montana myself. I don't know how many lounges you guys have out there, what kind of places, or what other states that you're close by to. So what have you guys done to really maximize the exposure of the brand based on where you're located?
So I'd say kind of like our growth has been very strategic, and it's been just building a foundation that's sustainable. We feel like a lot of brands in business in general, a lot of businesses grow so fast, they just don't have that corporate structure developed.
Okay.
So then there's opportunity to fail. So what we've really done is just kind of had this slow, sustainable growth. We're going into year 6. But what the interesting thing is, and what I think is going to be, what is going to be like a really big catalyst for us, is Jess and I have both been working full time before this. Like I was in oil and gas. I was quality control on a pipeline for pipeline companies.
Yep.
And so I was traveling all across the nation. Like last spring, I was working actually out in Boston for 4 months.
Oh wow, my neck of the woods.
Yeah, I was working in Milford, around the Boston area.
Yeah, I know where that is. Yeah.
But so it's just like we really haven't had the time, because your time's consumed by your full-time job and like what you do at night and what you can squeeze in during the day. Like we built it as much as we could with the time that we had, But it got to a point last September when Jess just asked me, he's like, "Hey, Brandon, we're really at a point where we're not going to grow unless one of us goes full time." He's like, "Do you want to get off the road?" I was on a project over in Michigan, and he calls me and he's like, "You want to get off the road and you want to go full time Big Sky?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do. I really believe in this brand and where we're going, and I want to make this thing happen." And so at first, like how we grew was just kind of word of mouth and through social media and just cold calling. But now that I have time to be on the road, I've been traveling around different shops. I've created a sales team. I think I have 6 sales reps right now across the country.
Wow.
And then I just got back from a trip in California. I'm going to an event in Texas on Friday, and just kind of have like my schedule stacked for the whole summer. So it's exciting, and I'm really excited to see what's going to happen at PCA for us, because this has been the most exposure we've had for a company as a company, and it's going to be a great show.
Yeah, obviously making that leap, because I mean, there's other smaller brands, kind of building themselves up that I know I talk to and whatever, and everyone kind of does their own thing, right? Everyone does things differently based on how business is going or how it suits their life. Making that jump to doing it full time. It's got to be exciting, but it's got to also be very nerve-wracking too, because you're like, all right, I'm going all in on this, and it's either going to be great, and this was worth it, or it won't be, and maybe I just fucked myself. But we're going to find out.
Well, I've just like told myself I don't have an opportunity to fail. Like
Yeah.
I'm just going at this, and I'm kind of weird in a way that like when I'm like focused on something, I almost like obsess over it.
Okay.
And so like I'm always looking at ways of things I can do better, or different avenues I can attack as far as different sales channels, or ways to improve the business. So it's just like continuously going after it. And I mean, we've had our best Q1 so far. Our Q1 was good. Our Q2 is looking great, and so I'm just really excited because a lot of our brick and mortars, are up in the Northwest. So the real smoking season starts now.
Right.
So it's Q2 and Q3 is going to be huge for us.
Same with like the Northeast, I would say. This is the time when the average cigar smoker begins to smoke. Not everybody who lives up in these colder states always has, somewhere warm or indoors they can smoke in those months. I mean, not everyone has the luxury of living in Florida or Southern California or Texas, where I mean, I'm not saying it don't get cold there, but I mean, they have better weather than we do for the most part year round. So, look, those are some tough states to get into. I mean, with the retailers, because of that, because they have like an off season and they have an on season. The southern states, I'm sure they have slower seasons, but it's definitely probably not as slow as January and December, up there or up here.
Yeah.
I mean, no one's buying cigars.
Yeah, crickets.
Yeah, exactly. So that's got to make it tough too. Where if that's where the primary part of your market is right now, you have a whole section of the year where, like, you have all the resources and stuff to get out there and do stuff, but it's a time when retailers are like, hey, like, we're not really selling that right now because it's like 10 degrees outside and we get a foot of snow, and nobody wants to sit outside and smoke a cigar because they can't smoke anywhere else. So it has to be tough, I imagine. It has to be tough in those months. But then once you get to here, it's gonna it's like, okay, now it's game time, and this is the season, and then you get the trade show and you get all that other stuff all through the summer. You just kind of have to like power through and get to the fall, and then maybe catch a breather then as it starts to slow down again. So I will say,
Well,
oh, go ahead.
Well, what we did is made a decision to come to Texas. So I moved down to Texas. I moved to Houston.
Yep.
And so I'm really hitting Texas and Louisiana, and I haven't made it up to Oklahoma yet, but it's on my to-do list. I really want to get there before PCA just so I could introduce the brand to those shops in Oklahoma. But so far, since coming down to Texas, I think we've gained like 35 brick and mortars between Texas and Louisiana. So it's been worth the squeeze, but it's been a lot of hard work. Coming down here in the beginning, people in Texas are super nice, but they haven't heard of us. So it's just kind of like, man, you got some really great cigars, but you're a boutique, and there's a lot of boutiques right now.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like, well, I'm not leaving, so you're gonna have to get used to my face. So then finally got into some shops and gaining some traction, momentum.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because it's true, and we've talked about that so many times on both of our shows. There's a lot of boutiques right now, a lot of it, and not that that's bad. There's a lot, and being amongst them, you have a lot of competition. You're one of I don't even know how many off the top of my head, but a plethora of boutique brands that are all also trying to grow just as you are and get their name out there. And then you have these retailers that, they got 20 boutique brands that are coming up like, hey, trying to get cigars in the shop, and if you're not, Padron, Fuente, Drew Estate, big guys who they know, oh yeah, it's a little bit more selective, so it's more competitive. It definitely is. And that, I would say that's definitely makes your job harder. And, when you can start getting into stores and getting the name out there, that says a lot because, you really, convince those retailers of taking in a brand, that they, look at like the other 30 that they've heard from. But that's great. And Texas is a good area to be in too. A lot of cigar smokers down there, so it's definitely not a bad place to be. We did have a question from the audience. Megan says, do you plan on opening another shop or just keeping the one in Montana?
So that shop that we have in Montana, it's in downtown Billings. It's called Stogie's. We were picturing on building another Stogie's in Montana, but then decided to pivot down to Texas. So I'm not going to say that we won't open another shop, but if we do open another shop, I could see it being more feasible for it to be in Texas instead of Montana.
Okay, yeah. We also have another comment from Marcus. Bring them to Eastern Montana. So
Eastern Montana, there's a liquor store in Glendive. They're talking to us about bringing us in there. We're in a store in Glasgow, and then we're also at Beaver Creek Brewery in Webo, Montana. So Marcus, if you're around those areas, those are those locations that we're in Eastern Montana.
And if you can't get them there, you can always head over to twoguyscigars.com and you can get them there.
I think you guys do have a locations thing on your website, right? That'll pretty much show people exactly all the retailers you're in.
Yes, I'm looking at it right now myself.
Yeah.
So you can head over there and you can look at the map and it'll tell you everyone who currently has it. Definitely none in Canada.
Nope. Now Matt mentioned this before.
Not yet.
Oh, so you're working on Canada.
I mean, I just always say look to the positive future. Just saying not yet.
Yeah.
I mean, it's gonna happen.
Yeah. Mitchell, go ahead.
Pretty close. Matt had mentioned before, like the Yellowstone cigar. Obviously, there's the TV show. Did you guys find like a bump in sales at all when the TV show started getting tractions, or were people like being like, "Oh, is this a cigar that has to do with the show?" Like anything like that, or?
Well, I mean, that was just kind of like a coincidence, or it was a coincidence. We named our first cigar the Yellowstone. So Jess and I, we love fly fishing. So if you look on our core lines, we have the Yellowstone, Bighorn, Madison, and Bitterroot. Those are all blue ribbon trout streams that we fish in Montana. And so that's why those cigars are named that way. But as far as like the Yellowstone cigar and the TV show, some people have said we should have played it a little better, like playing off the Yellowstone TV series. We really didn't, because that's not what we wanted our brand to be,
Of course.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm sure there was some sales because people probably Googled Montana cigars, and then they saw that we had a Yellowstone cigar, and they probably bought some more of them. But I can't really track it. I'm sure it helped in some ways.
Well, we know everyone got excited when they saw Weller on the show. I remember that. For those who are in the bourbon circles, I should say. Let me put the disclaimer there. If you're in the bourbon circles and you know what that is, I don't watch the show. Like I said, I just remember one day being on social media and everyone was getting all excited to talk about Yellowstone, and I'm like, oh, what's with all the talk about Yellowstone today? And it was like, oh, they had Weller 12 like on Yellowstone. Ooh, and like everyone got all excited. I'm like, oh, that's nice. And then I started seeing the Buffalo Trace ads during the commercial when the show was on. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, kind of seems like a missed opportunity. Maybe you could have had your cigars on the show. I don't know. I'm only joking. I'm only joking.
I think I looked at it, and there was just the whole tobacco advertising laws.
Yeah.
No, there's that. Yeah.
So
Like it's definitely a struggle, that advertising. But that's why if people like us, you can advertise with us. Because there's no law on cigar
True.
podcasts. Nova asked an interesting question here. Do U.S. cigar companies ever export their cigars? Yes, they do. Of course they do. A lot of the brands, business-wise, are based here in the U.S. I mean, Perdomo's international, Fuente's international, JC Newman's international, Tatuaje's international. I would say it's tricky. And Brandon, you've already probably looked into this. I mean, I know you guys are still trying to cover the U.S., but I'm sure it's crossed your paths. You could probably speak somewhat to it. It's definitely trickier when you're trying to get into other countries versus just trying to cover the U.S. There's a lot of companies that will go 20 years before they start to go international, just because building up the U.S. is a monster in itself. Then you got to look at other countries, and you got to look at their regulations and their laws, and you go from one big country to like all these little countries, and they all have their own different little rules and laws and taxes and all that stuff. So it does get tricky.
And then taxes.
And then you got Mitchell, who lives in Canada, who can tell you, just getting cigars into Canada, business-wise, is a big pain in the ass and very expensive. So
yeah,
it's tricky, but it does happen.
We have a guy that's a big supporter of us over in France. And sometimes he pays more money in shipping than he does pay in cigars because he loves our sticks.
Yeah,
it's crazy. And thank you, Steve, if you watch us. We really appreciate you very much. But he's really pushed us to expand because he's building contacts over in France.
Merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup, mon ami.
But just haven't really trying to take care of home first before we spread out that far.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's. For even some, I don't want to say larger, but even the medium-sized companies, right? Someone like the size of La Flor Dominicana, for example, not a big company, but they're not a small company. I like to consider them like an upper middle-sized company. I know that they're doing some stuff internationally. I don't know to what extent. I mean, I know they're in England because I know Tony's been over in England and they've been doing stuff over there. But even them, I don't think they have a massive international base. So I think they focus more on they everyone who knows LFD, they got a huge demand. Even finding their cigars in the U.S. can be tricky at times. So you have to look at that too. And even when you start to make it, and you're doing well, and you're booming, so to speak, business wise. Even then, it's still tricky to leave the U.S. because that just adds on so much more. And then Mitchell can tell you, or you were just saying, Steve, from France. I mean, once you start going across the pond, it gets expensive too. So then you just have that between logistics and taxes and stuff like that. It does get tricky and expensive. But when to the people who've done it, hey, props to them. It's great for business, so to speak. Hopefully, they wouldn't do it. But it is tricky. Another question we had from Nova: do you ever partner with microbreweries? Now, this is an interesting question. This is something I've actually seen asked a few times. Not so specifically with microbreweries, but just with breweries in general, or liquor companies, which definitely happens from time to time. Brandon, I don't know if this is something that you have personally done with your brand, but I would say in a general sense, yeah, this definitely happens. But have you partnered with any beer or alcohol at an event or something like that to kind of go with your brand?
Oh, when you're doing we did an event in the Woodlands up here in Houston, and they brought a distillery called Pursuit United, and we just kind of paired the cigars with the rye and the bourbon, and just kind of talked about it when the people are coming to get their samples. But as far as an exclusive partnership, we haven't done an exclusive cigar for a microbrewery or distillery. We do have distilleries and breweries that sell our cigars in their tasting rooms, but we haven't made an exclusive stick for anyone.
Oh, okay, nice, nice. Which reminds me, are you mostly a beer guy? I know you drink beer, but are you mostly a beer guy? Do you get into whiskey at all? Um, Kind of what's your go-to poisons, so to speak?
So I love an old fashioned.
Okay.
If I'm at a lounge, I'll get an old fashioned. I like to get one. Anything after that, it's kind of the sugar is just too much, and then
Yeah.
I go neat.
Yeah.
But I like a rye.
Okay.
So,
So what would you say from your collection of brands? What's your favorite pairing? What cigar with like a whiskey or rye? What's your favorite pairing out of what you have?
so I really enjoy Bullet Rye. I think
Nice.
it's easily attainable, and it's a great rye, and I drink that with my Cryptid or our San Andreas cigars. We have another one, the Big Horns of San Andreas.
Yep. Yeah, that's see for me. Mitchell knows because we've talked about this before. I'm not heavy on rye myself. Maybe I just haven't found the right one for me. But the several that I've dabbled into, and I'm like, it's not. I don't hate rye. It just doesn't hit me well. I know Mitchell drinks rye. Mitchell's
Oh yeah.
you
As
you drink a lot of rye.
as as a Canadian, that's pretty much like Canadian whiskey is usually rye whiskey, where they're kind of
Yeah.
the kings of rye up here. But I really enjoy an American rye as well. Michter's rye. We get tons of Bullet up here as well. Yeah, I'll drink rye. Alberta Premium.
Alberta
Isn't
Premium.
is Black Velvet Canadian?
Black Velvet.
I
Might
haven't even
be.
heard of that myself.
Yeah, I haven't.
It's the high school bottle of whiskey you'd buy for like $10 for a handle.
So it's like the bum
Oh, yeah.
juice.
Oh yeah,
The cheap
they
stuff.
got the plastic screw on top. Yeah,
Oh, that tells me
yeah,
everything I need to know.
it's a Canadian whiskey.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
I think it's like owned by Heaven Hill though, which is like a American brand. But yeah, I think
Yeah,
it's
yep.
considered a Canadian whiskey.
Oh, it's owned by Heaven Hill? That's interesting.
Yeah,
Very interesting.
It's not bad actually.
yeah. A lot of our rye comes out of Alberta, and the thing is like if you like rye, it's not like the best rye is that much better. Like the super expensive rye is not like that much better than like a pretty cheap rye, because rye is rye. You're usually making it out of a large portion of rye, and it just has a very specific flavor notes, a lot of like that floral and that spice, right? So it really, the more expensive stuff gets a little bit more complex and maybe a little more, I guess, palatable. But again, like, once you're a few drams in, kind of all tastes the same after that.
It's true. It's true. I mean, I would say, for me, like, I'm a big bourbon drinker, so, and I know what Brandon's talking about too. When he's like, "Hey, it's not that bad." Look, people get caught up in like the hard to find stuff, the rare stuff. We've all done it. I have a bunch of it myself. I have the ones I like. I don't buy, like, I won't chase down bottles just to get them just because I know, like, oh, this is like cool.
Yeah.
Because it's like you just have all the rare bottles, and half of it you don't even like anyway. Not that it's a bad whiskey, but maybe you don't like it. So it's like I've found the ones that I like, and I hunt down the specific bottles that I just really enjoy. But outside of that, I mean, regular Maker's Mark on a regular Friday, Saturday night, is good for me too. I had a friend who's also a big bourbon drinker, and he came to me one day and he said something, and at first I was like, "What?" But then the more I listened to him, I'm like, "Well, I mean, you make some good points." He came to me and he was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Have you ever had Old Tub?" I was like, "Old Tub?"
God.
I'm like, "Old Tub? They get that at Total Wine for like $19.99." And he was like, "Dude, I bought a bottle for shits and giggles, and it's not bad." He's like, "It's a cheap bottle that everyone has." He goes, "It's not." He goes, "It's not like whiskey of the year." He's like, "But it's like it wasn't painful." I was like, "I drank it. I was like, oh, I had a good time." And I'm like, "Well, that's a good point." So
I don't mind Old Tub.
yeah,
People laugh at me though. Wild Turkey's my favorite.
yeah, but
It's actually my
Wild
favorite
Turkey's
distillery.
great. Why would they laugh?
I don't know. Every time I say it, people laugh at me. They're like, "Wild Turkey, like that's what I drank in college." And I'm just like, "Yeah, because it tastes good, man."
Wild Turkey's come a long way. I mean, their Russell's Reserve, like the private picks that they do at some of the stores. Man, I had a bottle
Great
one
stuff.
here that a store
Great
picked
stuff.
around here, and man, I couldn't get enough of that bottle. It was
good.
delicious.
I always have Wild Turkey.
Wild Turkey does a great job.
I had a couple more questions. You mentioned the cryptid and kind of having you're smoking it right now, and yeah, the band on it. You know, Matt had mentioned the band, and it's this very unique thing, and I'm sure if anybody saw it, they'd be like,
Oh yes.
what is that? Is there a story to go along with this interesting kind of seems like this reptilian face?
And so it's the Flathead Lake Monster, and that's the Loch Ness Monster of the U.S. And so I was gonna name it the Flathead Monster, and like two months before PCA, Jess was like, we should really talk to a trademark attorney just to make sure all our bases are cleared. And so we call one up, and he's just like, well, it's trademarked by General. And he's just like, if you want to get sued, then name it Flathead. I was like, well, it's a geographical location. They can't trademark a location. It's right there in the laws. And he's like, no, but they can put a cease and desist on you till you go out of business. So we pivoted, and we're just like, all right, what are we going to do? So we found the name Cryptid. And Cryptid means like Bigfoot, a creature that's known to be true but never been seen.
Right.
Okay.
And it was actually turned out pretty cool because now we're going to have a cryptid series of cryptid creatures from across the country and across the world.
Oh
just gonna
wow.
build off
Nice.
this line.
Well, so just so you know, we have one of those up here as well, and they're called the Ogopogo.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a similar thing. It's a lake creature that has had multiple sightings. Is like this big, people say it's a prehistoric dinosaur just living in there off the fish in the deep depths of, I think it's Lake Okanagan, I want to say, Ogopogo.
I've never even heard of that. That's interesting.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know about it, but yeah, it's a lake that lives up here in BC. So you can look into that. It's very famous in BC. I think there's like a couple of like parks that have like Ogopogo themes and yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in Okanagan Lake. But yeah, that'd be a cool series though.
Yeah, that is a cool
Yeah,
series.
I'm excited for it. I mean, there's a lot of possibilities. So
Something kind of like what Pete Johnson does with his Monster series, where like you have like a certain thing.
Yeah.
Kind of like that.
It'll be similar. It's just these are going to be actual like monsters that are from a geographical location.
Right.
So I mean, similar to what Pete did with his Monster series, that monsters that we've all heard about, but just a little more like legendary creatures.
Okay.
Better go get those trademarks before General does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go get them.
They'll probably hear about it now because I'm on this show.
Hey, they're always watching, aren't they?
Yeah. Some of the Forge guys, they watch this show, so you never know. Yeah, and they've been spending a lot of money lately. So, as we talked about at the beginning of the show, so I'm not gonna get back into that again. That's a whole nother. We'll save that for the next spare notes. Which, by the way, before I forget, I'll mention it now. Sorry. There's no spare notes this week because I'm traveling and Coop is traveling, so no spare notes this week. We're gonna come back next weekend. We'll be back for spare notes and we'll get into all of the haps that has gone on since the last show, and we'll continue on our conversation that we started at the beginning of this show. Really quickly, let's hit our news segment, which is once again brought to you by Micallef Cigars. If you head over to micallefcigars.com today, you can sign up to become an official Micallef ambassador. So, Mitchell, this one is kind of something that we talked about a little bit, I think not on the last show, but the one before. Not so much as a confirmation, but as a speculation. So earlier in the year, here we go, back to STG again. A couple weeks ago, was it like a month ago that they said they were going? That STG announced that Forge would be taking the Alec Bradley booth and displaying all of the Forge brands at PCA this year. So they were the first of the big four to come back to the trade show. And then this week, we have confirmation that Altadis USA will return to the PCA trade show this summer. So now 2 of the big 4 have officially returned to the PCA trade show. Over the last few weeks, we've been hearing rumors that another one of the big 4 brands who exited the annual PCA, formerly IPCPR, would be returning. Retailers were revealing Altadis was telling them to expect to see them at the Midsummer event. Now we know for sure Altadis USA will return after seeing them added to the PCA 2023 floor map.
Yes, sir.
Hey, one came back. Didn't take long for another one to come back. And for the record, I believe those were the 2 that most of us in the media, I know at least me, you, Coop.
Oh yeah.
I want to say Matt and Garrett and Justin, I think, said it too in conversations, that those would be the first 2. And then what's interesting is if you look at the floor map, Hoya de Nicaragua will be there by themselves, but they'll have some Drew Estate staff there taking orders because that's who distributes them in the United States. So you have to assume, like, well, there's going to be at least a handful of Drew Estate people in town.
Again, it's
so-
not like an official press of Drew Estate is back as a booth, but
Correct.
Hoya and Drew Estate are very linked. Again, they're obviously 2 different companies, but they are in very close partnership.
Yes.
And you know, it is fair to say that I'm sure we will see Drew Estate based employees at the trade show. Whether they're going to be selling actual Drew Estate product is hard to say, but
I don't
they'll
think they
definitely
will
be
be.
taking Hoya's. I don't think so either.
Yeah.
They'll definitely be helping out Hoya. And I think it's been a while since Hoya has had their own booth, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think they were at the trade show last year.
I think the last time they were at the trade show, because I don't remember them
Again.
the last couple years. I think the last time they were at PCA was when they were with Drew Estate at IPCPR 2019.
Yeah.
I want to say.
So yeah, very interesting. You know,
Which
and
could be
it's-
the open door to Drew Estate fully coming back in 24.
Yeah, for sure. It might be them kind of like, scoping things out, seeing how it goes, and talking to people in person. But yeah, two of the big 4 confirmed coming out to the big party.
Also, not that it got a official announcement or whatever, but AJ Fernandez will be at the trade show this year, who wasn't there
Yeah,
last year.
I was gonna say, when I saw AJ hit the floor, I thought that was maybe a indication. Even though he does make a lot of cigars for everyone, I think he has a pretty good relationship with Altadis,
Yeah,
and they do a lot of stuff together. And
you
again,
did say that. I remember.
kind of in the same vein as seeing Hoya on the floor. I saw AJ, who hasn't been there for a while, or at least wasn't there last year. Hit
Wasn't
the
there
floor, and I
last
said,
year? I can't remember if he was there in 21.
I don't remember. Yeah. I kind of just had this feeling that I feel like this is a stepping stone for Altadis. Again, I didn't check out the booth plans. I don't know if they're close to each other or not, but yeah, it's good news. I think it's great for the industry. Some people are gonna not like it, but I think overall, I think it's good for the industry to have these names there, and yeah, glad to hear it.
Yeah, no, it is. It's good for the industry. It's good for the trade show too. Obviously, just for raising funds for PCA, which is what the trade show is all about. So it's good to see that. I'm going to make a prediction and say that those 3 will be back at the show in 24, which will be March of 24. Now that it's been moved, I think the moving of the trade show also helped a lot with that.
Oh, yeah.
with bringing people back. I think that was. I don't think that was the crux, but I think that was a major piece of the puzzle that I think when that happened, to see people like, well, I think we, maybe we'll come back and we'll try it out. So I think that was important. I think that was good. I still am going to predict that Davidoff does not return to the trade show, at least in the imminent future. I don't think that they will. The other 3, sure, but I don't think Davidoff returns. If they do, it won't be for a while. That's my guess.
Yeah, you never know. I would have to agree with that though.
Yeah. You're right. You never know. They could just come out tomorrow and be like, oh, we're coming back. But just on the surface and things I hear and what I see, I think they're the last one to come back if they come back. So that's our news for the week. That's the beginning of more PCA talk. Which if you head over to SmokinTabacco.com, you can stay up to date on all the PCA stuff that's happening in years past and for this year.
The beginning and the never end.
I know, the beginning of the never-ending conversation, which is pretty much what all Spare Notes is going to be from now until like August. It's just going to be pre-PCA, pre-PCA, PCA, post-PCA. It's going to be insane. But no, there's a lot to cover there. There's a lot to cover. Brandon, first of all, I just want to say thank you for being here tonight with us. Thank you for coming on the show. It's been a blast to have you. Getting to know your brand a little bit more and sharing that with the audience is always important too. So I just want to say thank you for that. And this cigar is fantastic. I have been enjoying this a lot. This has a lot of smoke production, great construction, burns really well. I haven't had to retouch it at all. A lot of flavor complexity. The floralness kind of went away after the first inch or so. About halfway through that first third. Getting a lot more spice on it now. Really enjoyable. I really enjoy this cigar. This is probably out of the few of the line that I have smoked. I haven't gone through all of them yet. I'm working my way through, but so far this is my favorite. This bitter root is probably my favorite cigar you guys have.
I appreciate that. And thanks for having me on the show. And you're talking about PCA, and I think with the PCA getting moved up to March, next year is going to be very interesting. Just as far as like what we're going to be able to come out with, it might be 25 before we have a new stick that releases. So.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because this is obviously something we've talked about the last couple of weeks since that news is, or last month or so, whenever that news came out. Was it March? I can't remember. Yeah, that tight window, especially for a smaller brand, right? You have a show in July, and then less than a year later, you have a show in March. So it's like everyone's, getting ready for the show in July like they've always known about, and now all of a sudden, like, oh, hey, by the way, you got 4 months less from your schedule, to do what you got to do. So to hear you say that is, I'm not shocked to hear that. I expect to hear that from a lot of people, actually, even some of the bigger guys too. I mean, it's. Do you think that you'll still attend PCA in 24? Like, right after being out there for July 23. Do you think do you still go March 24? Just to continue, or do you skip it and just kind of wait for another kind of full cycle, so to speak, and come back in 25?
Oh, it's important to go to the show. I mean, I see us being there. It's always great to meet accounts that we don't see other than at the show because, like on the East Coast, like people like meeting Dave and Ed last year and they bringing us into the shop. We were only able to get into two guys because we met them at the show.
Right.
So it's to meet those connections. I mean, you only get that if you go to PCA.
Yeah, no, I asked that question too because, I know that half of people are going to give me that answer, which I think is the right answer. And then you have people like, well, it's kind of quick. We might just wait. And I think that even if you don't have a new product to debut, it's especially for a brand that's trying to grow, I think it's very important for you to be there. Even if you have nothing new to show. I mean, you're still there. You're meeting more people. You're showing what you already have. I don't think that it's always necessarily about what's new. It's just kind of like, well, who are you? So I definitely, I think that's the right thing to do. Not that my opinion matters, but no, I think you're right. And I think it's important for you to go. And I think it sets a good example to others who, may be on the fence about it. Because I've definitely heard that from some people like, oh, well, I don't know. But I think it's important to still be there. So I'm glad you guys will be there. It'll be good to see you guys multiple times inside 12 months, which would be awesome. Do you guys do TPE at all? I don't remember seeing you at TPE.
We did TPE right after COVID.
Okay.
And then we went to PCA, and we just really feel that PCA is a better fit for our brand.
Yeah. It makes a lot of sense. Oh, it'll be good. It'll be good to see you guys, again in 24.
Definitely. I had a question about the Yellowstone River box and kind of how you guys came up with that. You mentioned you loving fly fishing as well as a bit of the proceeds going to some donations there. You want to tell us a bit about that?
Funny that you ask, because I was gonna show this to you guys.
Oh, okay.
Uh, Whoa, look what I got.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
Oh, camera thing. Oh, there,
We
right there.
we can see you. We
Nice.
see it. Wow, that's
So,
awesome.
uh, this is actually our Madison cigar. So we do the river boxes in different cigars, but the one on our website's a Yellowstone river box. So it comes with 5 cigars, a dozen flies, and a cutter. And the donations go to a nonprofit called Warriors in Quiet Waters. And Warriors in Quiet Waters, they bring post 9/11 vets that want to come out and just kind of have like a reset or a release. They take them on like a week fly fishing, get up in the mountains, and just get away from everything and to enjoy life. So it's a great program. Really excited that we're able to partner with them in that aspect, and we just yeah, it's a cool thing that we do.
No, that is
Yeah, I
awesome.
saw super awesome. You guys got handmade flies in there. Are you guys making the flies, or who do you have making your flies for that box?
So there's a company called Montana Fly Company that gets our flies for us.
Nice. Yeah, those look nice.
But we what the idea was
That's
is
definitely different.
uh I was talking to God, I always get this thing messed up. All right. I was talking with Jess and I was like, what can we do that's different? And it's just like, well, we love fishing. Like, why don't we take one of our boxes and turn it into a fishing box? And I
Yeah.
was like, let's just cut it in half without not really the space in half. And so we take our boxes, we cut the cedar, we put the cedar pieces in, and then we put the flies in there. So we retrofitted ourselves, and it takes a lot of time to actually make these things, but we sell a lot of them. We've done an ad in Fly Fisherman magazine for 4 years in a row, and we do it actually right around now for Father's Day, and people start ordering them, and it's been very good. Actually, it's been
Those
really
look like they were almost like the dimensions of like a medium sized fly box anyways that would fit like right into a pack, and you can just take that instead.
Yeah, we had another product that we made for a company, and it was a bamboo fly case, and it came with 4 Mad Minnows and 8 cigars, and it actually could fit like right in your pocket. And
Nice.
so that was a really great product. We sold 7,000 of them to this company, so that was a huge for us.
You know what's awesome is we hear a lot of people talk about cigars and golf. Smoking on the golf
Hmm.
course and oh, like we always talk about like the fresh packs, right? The 5 packs. Those are great for golf. When you're with your buddies, you grab one of those and you guys get cigars on the day and fresh pack keeps it fresh and whatever. But you don't hear a lot about fishing, and fishing is another. And I don't do a lot of fishing myself, although when I do get to do it, I enjoy it a lot. But fishing, you know, is another great activity
Hmm.
that goes well with a cigar. Just out there on the water, you know, no rush, relax. It's another relaxing activity. Of course, it's great with a cigar. Um, so I kind of like how you guys have taken that aspect and really put it with the
Hmm.
cigars, the fishing and the cigars, because it's refreshing. It's something different that I think is a great activity pairing with cigars. That's kind of outside the norm. That what everyone always talks about golf or um, outside of just regular social smoking. I'm trying to think of like another one that always gets talked about. But fishing is not one that I hear a lot of. But it makes a lot of sense, and I like how you guys have really capitalized on that. And then you have you have those boxes with the flies and everything. And I think that's great too. And there's definitely a lot of people who would be attracted to that and be like, oh wow, that's cool, that's different. I love fishing. I gotta have that. That is great. I just wanted to say I think that's a phenomenal idea, and it sounds like it's working out
Thank
really
you.
well for you guys too.
No, it's been great, and I mean it really stays true to like our roots and who we are. I mean, I think why Big Sky is a little different than most people is, it represents who Jess and I are. We're outdoorsmen. We love fishing and hunting,
Right.
and just that box just kind of just speaks to like what we like to do in our spare time and our free time.
It's a way of having part of your identity or DNA in the product that you make that also represents you guys, which I think is important, and I think that's a big part of owning a cigar brand. Is it's not just the brand; it's the people behind it, right? The reflection of the people behind it. You guys have done a great job at that. So, congratulations on all your success so far. And I wish you guys nothing but the best going forward. It sounds like you guys have a lot of ideas, a lot of things cooking. So it'd be exciting to see you guys continue to grow and roll it out.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
We're definitely going in the right direction, and it's what's cool is with Jess and I, like, we both bootstrapped this. We work full time, so all of our money went into this. So we have complete control over everything that we want to do. And so we only answer to ourselves and projects that we want to pursue after it, and we just go right after it.
That's awesome. It's the only
Nice.
way. You got to go all in.
Have you found some nice fly spots down in Texas yet?
I haven't been, but we went out on the boat 2 days ago, and we're just smoking cigars and just catching fish out in the Gulf. So it was pretty cool.
Nice.
That is nice. That sounds like a great time. What's the weather like down there right now?
Amazing.
Yeah.
I think it was like 80 degrees. It's
amazing.
it's like 80 degrees
Rub
with
it
a
in.
breeze.
Oh man, I'm jealous of that for sure. 100%. It's not too cold here, but it's not that warm, so it'll be here before we know it. But Brandon, thank you for being here on the show tonight. I really appreciate it. It's been great to chat with you and have a cigar with you. So I just want to say that once again. Just thank you for being here, and thank you for sharing your story with us and talking about Big Sky Cigars. Once again, you can head over to twoguyscigars.com to get these cigars. If your local brick and mortar retailer does not carry them, you can get them there, and Barry will ship them out to you. As I said before, there is no spare notes this weekend. We will be returning with you next week, next Saturday night rather. Next week's Smokin Tabacco show, we have Jason and Rebecca from Ash Quarterly that are going to be with us, and so we will be catching up with them and talking about some stuff that they have going on, and that's really our week. Once again, I feel like we should mention just another thank you to everyone who donated and was a part of, in one way or another, of the CFCF fundraiser that we finished off last week. It was, Mitchell, what did we finish off with? 52,800 and something?
30 or something like that?
Yeah. So $52,000, almost $53,000 raised. So everyone here at Smokin Tabacco is really proud of that. So just thank you very much to everyone who helped make that happen. Prizes, for those people who keep asking about prizes, about 90% of them I do not have in my possession. The manufacturers, or it's mostly just manufacturers who have held on to them. They have all been informed, and from my understanding, most of them have already shipped your prizes out. So you should be, if you got an email saying you want something, you should be expecting it soon. The stuff that Nicole and I have here, we have not begun shipping yet because we've just been trying to go over some shipping logistics and getting them packaged up and stuff like that. So it might be another couple of days before they go out. So you probably won't see those till like middle to end of next week, I would say, roughly. And that's going to be for mostly the Fuente prizes, the Line 2 lighter. I'm trying to think what else we actually have. I think that's mostly it. It's mostly that stuff. Everything else, LFD, Drew Estate, Tatuaje, Saka's bundle, all that stuff, the Rabbit Air, JC Newman stuff, all that they have, and they will be sending it to you themselves. And like I said, most of them have already gotten back to me saying that they've shipped it, so just keep an eye out because most of the prizes are already on the way if you haven't gotten them already. Those emails went out last Thursday afternoon. So by Friday morning of last week, they all had that information and they were already working on it. So I just wanted to give a quick update on that. And as always, you can head over to smokintabacco.com to get more news, reviews, and other updates from the cigar industry. And with that, we say good night, and we'll see you next week. Take care, everybody.